Welcome to the very first episode of Storytime Digest, unlocking the magic of Anny's Advancovations. I'm Cooper Duckstein, your host, and I'm delighted to have you join us on this exciting adventure. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to my incredibly talented daughter, Anny, the creative mastermind behind these captivating stories. In this episode, we'll get to know Anny a little better as we explore her inspirations, her love for storytelling, and her process of reinventing classic fairy tales and crafting urban legends. So, Anny, what inspired you to start reinventing classic fairy tales and creating urban tales?
I've always loved reading fairy tales, but I realized that many of them didn't quite resonate with the modern world. I wanted to breathe new life into these timeless stories by giving them a contemporary twist. As for urban tales, I love exploring the magic and mystery hidden within our everyday lives, so it was a natural progression for me to create stories that combined both elements.
Can you share with us your favorite classic fairy tale and urban legend? Why do they resonate with you?
My favorite classic fairy tale has to be Beauty and the Beast. I love the message of looking beyond appearances and discovering the true beauty within. My favorite urban legend is the story of the vanishing hitchhiker. It's a haunting tale that reminds us that the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary can be quite thin.
How do you approach the process of reimagining these well-known stories and making them feel fresh and relevant for a modern audience?
I start by identifying the core elements and themes of the original story. Then I think about how these themes can be adapted to fit contemporary issues and sensibilities. I also like to create relatable characters and situations that resonate with today's readers and listeners.
What are some of the key elements you like to include in your stories to make them engaging and exciting for readers and listeners?
I always strive to create strong, relatable characters. I also like to weave in elements of suspense, humor, and emotion to keep the audience engaged and invested in the story. And, of course, a touch of magic is always important to transport the reader or listener into the world of the story.
Can you tell us about your favorite character you've created so far and what makes them special?
My favorite character is Ruby from Ruby's Red Hood. She's a brave, resourceful young girl who learns the importance of trusting her instincts and standing up for what's right. Ruby is special because she's a strong, independent character who doesn't need anyone to save her. She's her own hero.
How do you stay motivated and find inspiration for your stories?
I find inspiration in the world around me, from the people I meet to the places I visit. I also love to read and watch movies, which help spark my creativity. Whenever I'm feeling stuck or uninspired, I try to step away from my work and do something fun, like going for a walk or listening to music.
What advice would you give to other young writers and storytellers who want to share their own imaginative tales?
My biggest piece of advice is to believe in yourself and your stories. Don't be afraid to share your work with others. You never know who might be inspired or touched by your words. And, most importantly, have fun and enjoy the process of creating.
What can our listeners expect from your podcast, Anny's Advancovations, on the Calavox channel, available through a paid subscription on Apple Podcasts?
Listeners can expect a mix of reimagined classic fairy tales and original urban legends, all with a contemporary twist. Each story is carefully crafted to engage, entertain, and inspire. I hope to transport listeners to a world of magic and adventure, while also exploring important themes and messages that resonate with our modern lives.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Anny. It's been a pleasure getting to know more about your storytelling journey, and I'm sure our listeners are eager to dive into the world of Anny's Advancovations. Remember, folks, you can access Anny's podcast through a paid subscription of the Calavox channel on Apple Podcasts. Before we wrap up, I'd like to encourage our listeners to subscribe to the Chronicles of Chatterwood newsletter at calavox.com. By subscribing, you'll receive exclusive updates, behind-the-scenes content, and other exciting news from the world of storytelling. And don't forget, you can listen to Storytime Digest, unlocking the magic of Anny's Advancovations for free on all leading platforms, such as Spotify, Spreaker, Deezer, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for tuning into our first episode, and we can't wait to share more amazing stories with you.
Until next time, happy listening.